Welcome to GME Admin Insights, the podcast dedicated to the GME community. I'm your host, Natasha Brox, and I'm thrilled to be back with you today. I've spoken to many in the GME community that has stated they were thinking of changing careers outside of the GME community because of not having that growth potential. I like to have people on the podcast that brings light and information to help the community. And with that, today's guest is precisely the type of person I wanted to speak with, Tiffany Brown. Tiffany has a wealth of performance improvement experience and a passion for optimizing organizational processes. Over the past decade, Tiffany dedicated her professional career to USF Health, where she played a pivotal role in enhancing operational efficiency and effectiveness, most recently serving as Director of Faculty and Academic Affairs. Tiffany is pursuing a doctoral degree in performance technology at the University of West Florida and holds a Master of Education in Instructional Design and Technology and a Master in Science and Administrative focusing on healthcare performance technology. That's a lot. Tiffany also has an extensive legal background, having dedicated the first decade of her professional career to working in civic law as a paralegal. Tiffany, welcome to GME Admin Insights, and I'm so glad to have you here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really look forward to meeting and sharing information with your community.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you agreed to be on the show, and I think they can learn a lot from you. So I know we've connected on LinkedIn for a short period of time. And after seeing your big news of becoming an assistant director, I had to reach out to you, and I was thinking this girl has transferred into the healthcare field after being in legal for a while, and then risen into your healthcare career. You know, you continue to grow, and this is a great of course, for you. And I know my listeners would love to hear how you did this. So, let's jump right into the questions. Okay, so first question. We've been following each other on LinkedIn, short period of time, like I said, and I knew that you was a top-notch professional. But what do you look for when you want to connect with others on LinkedIn? And do you think your LinkedIn profile says a lot about you?
Yeah, definitely. Great question. So what I look for in connections are anyone that's going to help me grow as a person.
Mhm.
So I've learned in the short time that I've even been active on LinkedIn, that the community there's so many individuals that just have wealths of knowledge and experiences that I can learn from to really become a better version of myself.
Mhm.
So far, this mentality has led me to connect with just amazing people who are all trying to do the same thing. And so, for the second part of your question, I do believe that my LinkedIn says a lot about me. I worked really hard last year to reach out to all of my connections that have known me for a very long time in my professional career and really just ask them for a recommendation on LinkedIn. It was easy to do. I wrote a really nice message why I was looking for the recommendation. And, a lot of people did it for me within a short amount of time. And so before I knew it, I had up to 10 really powerful recommendations on my LinkedIn. And that's really, to me, the highest form of a compliment that someone can do for
Mhm.
you. And it adds so much personal, to your profile because now they're not just looking at your bio and they're not just looking at their work history. They can actually read what other people are saying about you. And so, I made sure that I did that. And I also just made an intentional habit lately to really share posts that resonate with me, at least one a day, and put my own comments on them. And really, on your post, I always make sure I comment and share and do different things because what I want is if anybody ever comes to my LinkedIn and they go back and look at my post or look at my comment history, I really want them to see the content that I've chosen to interact with. And then that way
Mhm.
they'll have a real sense of who I am as a person and what I'm passionate about.
Right. That's a great insight about asking for
Recommendations.
recommendations. Yes, yes. That's something powerful that I think the listeners really need to hear and probably really dive into and look
hmm
at who they have on their their connect list, and then reach out
Mhm.
to a couple of them. That's a great takeaway. There's a lot that we learned about you today, seeing your big news of becoming Assistant Director, Ambulatory Experience and Operation at Tampa General Hospital. So you started out as a paralegal, then
Mhm.
Director of Faculty and Academic Affairs, and now Assistant Director of Ambulatory Experience. Um,
Mhm.
let's take it a step back though. How did you
Yeah.
find yourself going from paralegal into the hospital setting, especially as the director of faculty and academic affairs? And how did it all flow? How did you make that connection?
Yeah, no, great question. And actually, when you contacted me for this podcast, that's when I realized that my newest adventure isn't even the first time that I pivoted careers. I originally started my journey in the legal field back in 2006, and I was working in private practice. And at the time, my goal was to attend law school. And I've always been a firm believer that I don't want to do a career unless I know what all the other roles that career is going to interact with do. And so that's kind of why I became a paralegal. I wanted to know, what's my paralegal going to do one day when I'm an attorney? Like how are we going to work together? And so I've always thought you come in at the ground up and you work your way up. And
Hmm.
so that's how I even got into that field to begin with. And so I learned being a paralegal that I had, a lot of skills that I had acquired that could be transferable within that career. So organization, working under pressure, communication, problem solving, and so that role in private practice is what led me into healthcare law
Hmm.
when I became a corporate and transactional paralegal at USF Health. And so that position, it was located within the C-suite, and it was a major office within the academic health system. Actually, when I was thinking back on it, I said this really connects with GME because we used to do all those contracts.
Yes.
You can't have your residents going somewhere if we don't have an affiliation agreement. So that
That's
was
so
me.
true.
That is who I was. So if you know that
Oh,
person at
okay.
your university, that was me making sure that your students and your residents could go where they needed to go. And so when I was in that position, I ended up taking on a lot of different projects. I was hungry. I was young. I was hungry. Give me projects. Let me show my skills.
Mhm.
And so I found out through that job that I just loved improving things. And I had improved everything within our corporate transactional office, and other people started to notice it. I was getting invited to different departments to improve things. And so if you notice on my LinkedIn, I have like three different titles. I was like a paralegal, a project manager, and a SharePoint administrator because it had just evolved over time within that job. And so, I say all that to kind of lay the groundwork for when I made my first pivot. So to go from paralegal, which was an administrative role, to a
Mhm.
major leadership role as a director who
Yes.
was overseeing four colleges and one school, um, you know, it was amazing. I know how I did it, and I'm going to tell you all how to do it. But when I think back on it, I'm like, I was just an administrative girl sitting in a cubicle, and now I'm a director.
Right.
And so yeah, so that's kind of what I did, and so the reason why I made that pivot is at that time I had started already looking into schools. I knew that I really loved performance improvement, and that's how I found my first master's degree. So I had just recently graduated with both of my degrees, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to take it to that next step. I know I have all the skills, I have this education now. Let me show somebody why I'm not just a paralegal. And at the time, the office that I took over needed a desperate overhaul. And the position had been posted. So you could tell that they were looking for somebody that would come in and just really improve major things, not just within that office, but our whole health system. And I was like, this is it. This is my opportunity. This job was written for me. It has me all over it. And so what did I do here? Um, because I had worked so long on so many different projects, and I think this is something really important for your community to know. If there's a way for you to work on something to get your name out there, maybe that's a little different than what you do every day, jump on it. If you have skills to put towards a project like that, do it because I had all those projects. Everybody knew who Tiffany was. And they didn't
Mhm.
just know me because I was the girl that did contracts. They knew me because I did everything. I was improving all kinds of stuff. And so when I applied for that job, um, I knew what was going to happen. I knew that the committee was going to get my resume, and the first thing they were going to see was paralegal. And I was like, they're going to just toss my resume to the side because they're going to just be biased and instantly disqualify me.
Mhm.
And so I knew that going in, that I really needed to ensure that the packet that I submitted was all inclusive of what I had to bring to the table for the position. So I wrote a very detailed cover letter. I went out of my way. I didn't have to do this. I asked 3 senior leaders to actually write me a letter of recommendation for that position, not a generic letter, but one to tell
Mhm.
the committee why I am qualified to be in that role. And so I submitted that with my resume so that that way, when the committee got it, they not only had a personally crafted cover letter, they had 3 high level leaders in the organization, and then they had my resume, which I tweaked to make sure it just didn't look like I only was a paralegal. And so yeah, so I did a lot of amazing things in that role. And that's when I started to get nervous. So I'm creeping up on my over decade with USF Health. And I was like, man, am I going to get pigeonholed into academia? So I really started just to look what was out there at that next level. And with all the experience that I had with our health system, I was like, you know what, maybe it's time to jump from the university over to the hospital. And so that's where that next level for me's come from. And, honestly, I did all the same things that I just told you about to get my first job to get this job.
Oh,
And so all that same stuff I did. And, I really just wanted to make sure that whatever recruiter picked up my application, they couldn't deny that I had skills to bring to their organization. And so here I am on Monday. I'm embarking on another pivot.
yes, you are. And clearly, you're passionate about your career, your
Yes.
professionalism, which is key, and the climb that you have going up. So,
Hmm.
why do you think that you're so passionate? What makes you
Yeah.
passionate about, like, not just transferring, but like you put all that stuff into your resume with
Hmm.
those letters. So, why do you think that is?
Yeah, so I love that question. And everything always ties back to your childhood. And I have to say, so my childhood, I came from a very poor childhood, single mother who I watched painstakingly hustle to make ends meet because, she grew up in a generation where women had to stay home. They had to raise families. They couldn't strive for careers. They couldn't strive for education. And we didn't live in the best area. We were
Mhm.
a small town. Nobody really ever made it out of the small town. And so from a young age, I really knew that no matter what I'm doing something to get out of here and to ensure that I'm never in that position.
Right.
Because it was just heartbreaking to me. And so I really think that that drive has just carried me through my career and my educational journey because I'm always going to want more. And I have my
Mhm.
mom's spirit of never giving up. So I think that's what's carried me this far.
Yes, yes, that drive is something else. When you have that drive, it's
Hmm.
like anything is possible.
Yes.
So what do you think caused you to make a transition from, I know we talked about it from legal
Hmm.
into the healthcare. So when you made your first transition, were you
Hmm.
nervous about it?
Yeah. So I jumped from civil law into corporate healthcare law because honestly, I just needed a break. Like private law is tough. I worked in family law, which just drains you.
Oh,
And so at the time, I still wanted to go to law school. That was my aspiration. And so I just thought it would be a great experience to learn another side of law. And, honestly, I wasn't nervous about it. And I've always had such a high self confidence that it really will make you feel invincible.
yeah.
And so, having that kind of confidence, you just push any amount of self doubt about yourself or nervousness out because there's no space for it. You haven't left space for it because you're so confident in what you bring to the table.
Right. I know I do have a lot of some listeners that and like I'm so nervous because I'm going into another field.
Hmm.
But I mean, you have to really push yourself. What do you
Hmm.
think gave you that push to step out on a limb?
Yeah, definitely. So with all of my different career pivots, I feel that I really stepped out on a limb because I never wanted to subscribe to just being locked in or typecast into a role, which I
Mhm.
know you said your community feels like sometimes with GME work. And, I just had that desire to keep learning. So I also never wanted to get tired of what I was doing. Sometimes you end up in these roles and it's just the same thing every day. And I didn't want to end up there. So this, in my opinion, is really where your community and what I did was own who you are, own your lived in experiences. And then that way you have so much to bring to the table that you were willing to step off that limb because you
Right.
know that you're not going to fall. There's going to be somebody right there to catch you, or there's going to be a ladder.
Yes.
Just feel strongly about that. And I've never walked into an interview thinking, oh, I'm just a paralegal, or oh, I'm just an academic director. I walked in with like a boss babe attitude
Yes.
that whoever is recruiting, they need to know that they're lucky to have me. Like, and when you have that mindset, you do crazy things like jump off that bridge or jump off that
Yes.
limb because you
Yes.
have just so much faith in yourself. And I think everybody just needs to really look hard at what you bring to the table and own that, own it.
Mhm. That boss babe, I like that because you do have to go in there and just be that boss. You can't
Yes.
go in there like, you should hire me because no,
No.
be that boss. Be like,
Yes.
yes, you need me because of
Yes.
this,
This.
and that. Yes, I like that attitude. I love that attitude. I think that's great.
Yes.
So I know a lot of professionals think that, you don't need a degree to move up. You
Mhm.
do need a degree to move up. And I see that you not only have one, but two masters. I'm like, this girl is wow. So what made you get two masters, and do you think that it helped you along the way?
Yeah, definitely. So I mentioned earlier my love for projects and just improving things really is what kicked off my educational journey because I feel like the bachelor's was just something I knew I was going to get. I had
Right.
to get that to get to law school. So I did focus it more on paralegal studies, which was good because it wasn't just so generic. But when I knew I wasn't going to go to law school, I really wanted to focus on a graduate degree that wasn't generic. I
Hmm.
wanted it to be very valuable and I wanted it to have skills that I would learn that could be transferable to any sector. I didn't want that degree that everyone else that I'm competing with is going to have.
Right.
And so, because I had that mindset of what I wanted to bring to the table, even though I wasn't there yet, that's how I found my first master's degree in human performance technology. I had never even heard of that before. But on my search, I was like, oh, this is improving human performance. I love doing improvement projects. Let me
Hmm.
learn more about this. That way, I not only have the work experience, but I have the education and the science and the rigor to back up what I'm saying. It's not just that I'm doing it, I know how to do it because I was taught the methodology and the correct way to do it.
Right.
And so, I really just love UWF. For any of your followers, it's in Pensacola, but I live in Tampa, and all their programs are remote. They have some
Oh,
wonderful, wonderful graduate degrees that are remote. So I just really loved the faculty, how affordable it was. I could have went to school for free at USF, but I didn't because I
oh,
wanted this degree. I paid out of pocket because I wanted it because I knew it would bolster me up. And so, right before I graduated with my first master's, I learned that they were going to create a doctoral program for human performance. And I said, oh, I have to do it. Never wanted to be Dr. Brown, but I guess I'm going to be Dr. Brown one day because I'm like, I have to do it. This is I'm so passionate about it.
yeah.
And it was going to take about a year. They have a lot of steps to get programs approved. And I was graduating and I realized that my degree trans credits could transfer to a second master's, and I would only need 3 semesters to get a
Oh,
second master's. So I said, oh, I got to wait a year. I got 3 semesters. Now I have 2 masters.
why not?
Why not? So yeah,
Oh
the
my
overachiever.
goodness. But that's good though. That's good because you knew what you wanted. And so you were taking those steps to get there, not saying, oh,
Mhm.
I'll have another one, I'll have another, but it was for a reason, which
Yeah.
brings me to my next question, because I often talk about like a professional development
Mhm.
plan or, your being professional development, just the development for growth
Yeah.
in some sort of way. Did you like plan? did you like map out what you wanted to, how you wanted to grow in your career when you were getting those
Mhm.
masters? I know you said, three more, semesters, let me get this, but did you
Yeah.
plan your career out?
Yeah. So usually with that, so this is so funny. My assistant would laugh about this because I am terrible at planning things. I just am always very loose with my plans. And that's one reason that I am a perpetual student, because there's a framework. I Someone else is telling me exactly what to do to get from point A to point B.
Right.
And I will follow that plan, to the T. But I've never been the person to really put hard deadlines on myself to
Mm,
be at either certain points in life or certain points in my career,
right.
because I feel it's better when you kind of just let that stuff happen organically so that
Mhm.
you can really discover what your true calling is, where your passion is. Because I think back and I'm like, man, if I had had some hard goal that I was only going to work as a paralegal for a year and then I was going to go straight to law school, I would have missed the opportunity to learn that I wasn't passionate about that I actually was passionate about something else. So I always try to be a little loose with my plans.
And it works for certain people, some
Hmm.
people have to plan it out. I'm a planner. I'm like,
Yeah.
I need a plan. I need to do this. I'm a planner because if not, I will be all over the
Yes.
because I
Yep.
like so many things. So it's like, nope, I need to just stay focused on this and once I get through with that, then I can do this because
Yes.
I'll be everywhere. I will.
I
So
feel that.
it's like what's worked for you,
Hmm.
basically. Yes. So, and then I know a lot of people, they want to transfer, and you have done just that. You've transferred. When you're in the interviews,
Hmm.
then like even now and recently, um, even back then and recently, how did you use your skills and knowledge to help you sitting in that chair?
Yeah, that is a great question. So, and that's exactly what you want to do. You
Hmm.
want to be, when you're sitting in that chair, focusing on the knowledge and the skill, not the position that you had, not the title. Focus on those actual skills that make you effective as what you do. And that's what I did with the director of academic affairs is I looked and said, okay, yeah, on paper they're going to think I did all this, but really I did this. These are the hard skills that I had to have in order to do that job successfully. And really think hard about what those are and make sure that you're picking things that are transferable, because not all skills are. So if you know that your job maybe has 25% that probably aren't transferable, don't even bring those up. Spend your time focusing on those ones that you know are going to make a connection with the recruiter. And don't walk into the interview putting yourself in a box before you even get in there. So take that notion of your head up, I'm just a GME coordinator, I'm just a
Hmm.
paralegal, and put it on the curb because it does not need to go
Right.
in the interview with you, because you want that interviewer to see you, who you are, not the title or that you did or that you had. And you're going to help them create the picture by highlighting all of those transferable knowledge, skills,
Hmm.
and abilities that you have to fit the role that you're trying to land.
Right. I say that all the time. Go in
Mhm.
with the mindset that you already have that job.
You got it.
You could
Yep.
have been an EVS sweeping floors. So you're not going to go in there and sit down as the janitor. You want to
Hmm.
go and sit down as, if this is a director's job, act like a director, sit there
Yes.
and talk like director.
Look the part, talk the
Yes.
part, act the
Yes.
part. Yes, because
Yes.
that's what they're looking at you to see. Can she even be at this level?
Exactly. Exactly. I love that. And I had a newsletter talking about like being on committees to elevate
Hmm.
in professional, any type of professional role, because it helps you to learn the ropes of things.
Yep.
Would you suggest to anyone who wants to climb to be on a committee? And if so, why or why not?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, 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 yes. Join the committees, especially if you're in a role that doesn't allow you to be seen. You want to be on those committees, because so many of us, when we're at those administrative levels, we're the ones that are really doing all the work behind the scenes, but our leaders are the ones who are going to the meetings on the Monday mornings and acting like they did a whole bunch of stuff.
Exactly.
And and people, hey, we're just being honest here. Love your
Yes.
leaders, but that's what you do.
Yes.
Um, and then we don't get seen. And if those people aren't willing to say your name in rooms that you're not in, that is why you need committees, because
Yes.
then people know, ooh, I worked with her on that length of service event and she was so organized and she was, just anything you can be on, take that opportunity if you have time to do it, because you're going to make so many connections, and then people are going to know your name. And the more people that know your name, the better.
I say that all the time. Yes, be on it. Um, and um, and make sure that you, like you said, if you're the ones doing the work, so you already know about it,
Yeah.
right? So why not go in there and sit at
Hmm.
the table and talk up? Not just sit there, but actually talk. Put your information, put your what you think, your
Yeah.
knowledge on the table so they can hear you, and then continue to connect you with that work, right?
Yes. Yes, definitely. I love it.
I know. I love committees. So what other advice would you give someone wanting to change careers or just not sure where to start and how to do it?
Yes, and that is kind of a hard thing. You have to know what your passion is. And if you're not sure what you're passionate about, that's your very first thing you have to figure out.
Right.
And sometimes we're not talking big, big passions like I want to save the world or I want to cure cancer. Like those are different kind of passions. I'm talking about when you're working your 8-hour day, what are those things that you end up doing that you're really passionate about?
Hmm.
Maybe as part of your role, you have to do the onboarding for residents and you really love that part of your role. The other stuff, you're like, oh, I do it to check off the boxes, but I really love this onboarding. And so, blow that out. Like, where else could I do onboarding, and what other circumstance could I do onboarding? It doesn't just have to be in GME; it could be
Right.
anywhere. And so, really finding whatever the passion is in your 8-hour day that you really love, find it, cultivate it, and figure out how to grow it in a different area, and that is how you will be able to transition careers.
Right. I say that all the time. Yep. So, I've heard several times that you have to tailor your resume to the job that you want to apply for. And I heard you just say it as well.
Mhm.
And I know you did that. So speak on that about a little bit about that.
Yes. So yeah, you 100% want to do
Hmm.
that. I say you should at least have 4 or 5 different versions of your resume. If you're somebody who's, not quite sure what area you want to transition to, have ones that highlight different strengths so that when you do find a job you want to apply for, you already have a base for it. And
Hmm.
then you might just need to tweak it a little bit based on what that actual position said. So 100% customize it. Because remember, the whole purpose of why we're putting all this work in is that
Yeah.
we do not want recruiters to see me as a title. I
Right.
am not that title that I had. Half the time, they don't even give you the correct title. So your
So
title
true.
doesn't even match what you
So
did.
true.
So
Right.
we got to make sure we highlight all the things that we did that were so much bigger than that title. And so,
Right.
you always want to have actionable things on there. And so if you're looking at that job position and it says, the one that you want to transfer to, that they need to be able to, I don't know, coordinate a budget or something. And you're like, oh, I've never really done a budget. But you know what? I did do a budget actually, because I had to budget within our GME pod of things that we had to spend money on. Like, highlight those things so they see, oh, she did work with money. Oh, that
Yes.
you have to do it.
Pull it out.
Um, yeah, pull it out because we
Pull it
want
out.
them to see who you are and why they should want you. So highlight them and change those resumes.
Yep, all the time. I say it all the time. You have to have several. I have one with every single job, and
Yes.
then I have one with, that'll go this way or this way. So yeah, I think I have about five. And then, sometimes they're like, oh, just give me the last 10 years. Well, that's at two places.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
so you do have to have several resumes. So as I
Hmm.
think about like, your future and your current position, what do you want to learn out of this position? And how do you think it's different from your last one?
Yes. All that I'm stepping into will be really the very first time that I'm getting to practice my passion for performance
Mhm.
improvement exclusively. So this is really exciting to me because I don't know what that looks like yet.
Yes.
Every time that I've done performance improvement before, I've had other roles, I've had other things that I had to focus on.
Mm.
While I was able to accomplish a lot in my director role, I did a lot of improvement initiatives, and it was still a major leadership role. So even though I had so many other initiatives I wanted to focus on, that role made me have to also focus on being the director of faculty affairs. It had a lot of human resource responsibilities, not my passion. But
Right.
again, I didn't take that job to be the director of faculty affairs. I took that job and applied for it and made that pivot because I wanted to show on my resume that, hey, I took this role to strengthen my resume, to show that I can do this, that I'm not that other position that I had a title for. And so that was kind of my first real pivot to show the world, hey, I can do something else. You got to watch out for me.
Mm-hmm.
And now with this next pivot, it's, hey, who you thought I was good when I only had 25% of my effort to focus on it. Wait till you see me with 100%.
You watch out.
Watch out. Boss babe coming through.
There you go. Hashtag boss babe.
I love it.
So, we all know about the imposter syndrome, and you don't feel like you're ready for that position, right? But
Mhm.
like you went from paralegal, and now, did you ever have the feel that syndrome when you were going from paralegal into what you're doing now?
Yeah. So that is such a funny question because I honestly have never experienced imposter syndrome
Oh,
until last night. It was, I don't know, we came home, it was like close to midnight, and I just started crying. My husband's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I don't know if I'm ready." I was off a deep end. My husband's looking at me like I'm crazy. He's like, "Who are you?" He was, and I said, "I think this is what imposter syndrome feels like." And honestly, it was terrible
wow.
to feel like I had lost my confidence that I've carried with me my entire life. Suddenly I'm there. I'm this like feeling like this little weak person who doesn't think I can do something that
Right.
clearly a lot of very high level VP people think I can do. And I was like, wait a minute. My husband kind of, got me back on reality and, reminded me who I am.
Right.
And that's what you have to remember because those voices are going to come in your head. And I'm like, that's a devil coming in trying to derail you. Like,
Yes.
do not let that happen because you know who you are and nobody can take that away from you.
Right.
And you just have to look at how far you've come and just don't allow that voice to take over. You can do this and
Right.
you have skills.
Right.
So own it and just tell that voice to get out of here because just like we left that title at the door, we're leaving that imposter syndrome at
Oh,
the door
that's
too.
right. So true. I love that. I love that. And finally, just for fun, if you could take only two things with you out of your office to a desert island, what would it be and why?
Yes, I don't know if they'd be very helpful for me, but I literally cannot live without post-it notes. I am that person that has 900, and I could do it on the computer now. They probably make 100
Yep.
programs where you could post-it note on the computer.
Mhm.
I have to have my little post-it notes, even though I'll throw them all away at the end of the week. I got to have my post-it notes and I got to have my Dr. Grip pen, favorite pen of
Oh,
all time.
you gotta have the favorite pen.
Got to have the favorite pen. So yeah, the Dr. Grips, I swear by them.
Great answer, Tiffany. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today on GME Admin Insights. And if listeners want to get in contact with you, is LinkedIn the best way for them to do so?
Yes, definitely. Send me a connection request on LinkedIn. Let me know that you heard me here. And please follow me because one of the things that I really told myself I want to do this year is post every day for the whole
Mhm.
year. And I would love to connect with you on there on my posts and then be able to follow you and give you feedback. And I'm just really excited about this community. So please connect with me.
So you heard her, connect with her so she can post. All right, terrific. Thank you. Today we were speaking with Tiffany Brown. She is a performance improvement personnel with 10 years of experience and a legal background who has soared in her career. She knows how to build a professional career. And with that, we conclude another enlightening episode. And remember, your dedication keeps the years of GME turning, and your growth matters. Until next time, community.